Hello guys, so we are going to continue the discussion with respect to statistics, and in this video we are going to discuss about the different types of sampling techniques. Already in our previous video we have spoken about population and sample data. We understood the characteristics, we understood some of the amazing examples, and in most of the inferential statistics, or let's take a specific use case. Let's say that I have a use case over here, and this use case is very common that is done. Let's say after an election, an exit poll is basically conducted. Now, what exactly is an exit poll? Let's say this is the entire population of a specific state, okay? State in India. Let's consider this is a state in India. And this state, recently an election was basically conducted. Now, when an election is specifically conducted in the state, right? So what happens is that many news channel actually do this exit poll to just understand whether party A may win or B may win or C may win or D may win, right? Now, during this particular scenario, right, this entire people who are specifically eligible for voting, these are my population, right? And with respect to the exit poll, many news channel, they perform the exit poll based on the sample data, because it is not possible to go and ask each and every person which party did you vote, right? So what happens is that once the election gets over, news parties, channels and all, right? News channels specifically, what they do is that they take a sample of data from every region, right? And this specific sample, they will go ahead and ask, hey, which party did you probably vote? Let's say if the entire population is somewhere around 7 million, let's say 7 million people are there. Now, let's say over here, the sample data set that is probably taken, or sample people, which the news channel are specifically going to ask, maybe 10,000, right? So what they will do, out of this entire state, they may pick up this kind of sample of people and they may ask those people like, which party did you vote? So finally, after taking this tentative proportion, and then wherever the majority of the people have actually voted for a specific party, they come up with an exit poll saying that, hey, this party may win, or this party may win, or this party may win, or this party may win, right? But still the question rises, how do we specifically pick this sample, right? Do we just pick it randomly, or is there some strategies of picking this kind of sample, right? So that is what I'm actually going to discuss about in this specific video. So considering this, if I talk about different types of sampling technique, there are two main sampling technique. One is something called as probability sampling technique. Okay, probability sampling. And the second technique that we commonly use is something called as non-probability sampling. Non-probability sampling. Now let me just go ahead and discuss more about this with examples and what are the different types of probability sampling techniques and all. We will probably go ahead and discuss. Okay. So first of all, we will go ahead and talks about different types of probability sampling. Right. So here I am going to use probability sampling. Okay. So in the probability sampling, the first type of sampling that we will be discussing about is something called as simple random sampling. Simple random sampling. Okay. Now in this kind of sampling, every member of the population, has an equal chance of being selected. Okay. So here, if I consider this as my population, and during the exit poll, most of the time we specifically do simple random sampling. But here one factor is that your age should be greater than 18, greater than or equal to 18. Okay. Then you can probably pick up random sampling from different regions, and then you can probably go and ask them which party did you vote. So here, what does simple random sampling basically means that every person in this particular population has an equal chance of being selected. Okay. So here, one of the example that I can probably say over here in the same example. Okay. Selecting people randomly in this population, right? Selecting people randomly. Okay. Another basic example will be that, let's say I have many hats. Okay. And what I do is that, or let's say there is a classroom which has a lot of students, and I have all the names of a student in a chit. Okay. So let's say I have that all the chits inside me, I have that in my desk. And what I do is that I randomly select a person name, right? So here I will go ahead and say I'll draw names randomly from a class of student, right? So any one can be selected. So there is an equal chance of getting selected. Okay. Now this kind of random sampling are most of the time used in exit poll and all, right? But still I will talk about multiple things in short. I will give you multiple examples so that you will be able to understand it. Okay. So this is one type of sampling which is called as simple random sampling. The second sampling technique that is there is something called as systematic sampling. Now let's talk about what exactly is systematic sampling. Okay. So in systematic sampling, here you can see that we will select every nth member of the population after a random starting point. Okay. So this is the second type. Okay. Let's consider an example in this. I hope everybody has been to an airport. I guess so. You have caught a flight for traveling from one place to other place. In an airport, you may be seeing some kind of shops, right? There will be a credit card. Banks will be putting their shop to sell credit card. What this credit card people will basically do, I have observed that, I was sitting quietly to probably, catch my flight. So over here, this credit card people, they were going through a mechanism, every fifth person that they see, there are two people. Okay. Every fifth person that they see, they were trying to pitch them this specific credit card, telling about the features and all, right? So every fifth person that they see, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then the next one is the 10th person that they will go ahead and probably pitch this credit card, the features of credit card. Then 15th person, right? So this kind of sampling where we are just picking the nth member of a population, whoever is probably entering that particular airport, that is called as a systematic sampling. Okay. So this can be a very good example. Okay. One more common in industries also, which we have specifically used, is something called as feedback survey, right? When I was working for one of the MNCs, before, so there in one of my companies, there we asked the feedback from our customers, and we selected every 11th member, right? Every 11th member, and we dropped them a mail for the survey, for the feedback survey, right? Now you may be thinking, why 11th? It can be any number, guys. I've just given as an example over here. Okay. So this is basically called as a systematic sampling. The third type of techniques in probability sampling that we can go ahead and discuss is nothing but something called as stratified sampling. Now, what exactly is this stratified sampling? We'll go ahead and discuss. Okay. Now, stratified sampling basically means that we divide the population into strata. Okay, we divide the population into strata, which we also say it as groups, based on specific characteristics. Okay, it's based on specific characteristics, and then randomly sampling from each strata. Okay, when we say strata is basically nothing but groups. First of all, we will divide the population into groups. Then based on specific characteristics, then we randomly sample from these groups. Okay. One basic example that I can probably do, take with respect to this kind of sampling is that, let's go ahead and do one thing, right? We will divide the employees in a company by department. By department, and then randomly select a proportional number from each department to form a survey sample. Okay, so here what we are doing is that we are first of all dividing all the employees by department, and then randomly select a proportional number for each department to form a survey sample. Okay, one more example that I can probably say, over here, let's say that I have a population of people. I will divide the people based on age. I'll make 3 categories: less than 12 age, between 12 to 18, and greater than 18. Let's say based on this 3 division I've specifically made, and I will try to take surveys based on this age factors. Okay, let's say this 2 age factors I will take, and I'll say, hey, probably I may tell them to fill a survey related to politics, right? Everybody will be having a different views, right? So this kind of sampling is specifically called as stratified sampling. The next type of sampling technique that we are specifically going to discuss about is something called as cluster sampling. Cluster sampling. Now let's discuss about this sampling technique. Here we divide the population into clusters. Okay, so this is really important to understand. Okay, and then you'll also be able to understand the differences exactly. Divide the population into clusters, and then randomly selecting clusters. Okay, clusters. Then sampling all the members from the selected clusters. Please note this definition, because through this definition you will be able to understand what kind of sampling technique this is. Dividing the population into clusters. So first step, we are probably dividing the entire population into clusters, then randomly selecting the clusters, and then sampling all the members from the selected clusters. So if I probably consider this exit poll, right, we can also perform cluster sampling, right? So from this particular population, let's say I've selected 10 different areas based on clusters. Then I will randomly select one of the cluster and ask each and every person who are present inside this particular cluster, whom did you vote, right? So this methodology is basically called as cluster sampling. But let me just go ahead and write one basic examples for you. It is nothing but randomly selecting several schools from a district, let's say, and surveying, let's say I want to go ahead and ask or survey all teachers within those schools. Perfect. So this is basically called as cluster sampling. Okay. So in probability sampling, these are the 4 common types of sampling techniques that we specifically use. Okay. One more sampling technique, which I hope is not mentioned everywhere, but I did a lot of research to probably find this out, is something called as multi-stage sampling. Now, what exactly is multi-stage sampling? Okay. So here we combine. So it is like combining several sampling methods. Combining several sampling methods usually involves selecting clusters, then randomly sampling, within those clusters. Okay. So first of all, we'll divide the population into clusters and then randomly select people or randomly select the object from that particular clusters. Okay. So again, one example of this kind of sampling can be, let's say, first of all, we will go ahead and randomly select the cities, randomly selecting cities for a specific survey. And then within each selected city, randomly selecting households to survey. Right? So this is basically called as multi-stage sampling. Now this was all about probability sampling. Now let's go ahead and discuss about non-probability sampling. You should definitely know this 2 different types. Okay. So second one is basically called as non-probability sampling. And we are just trying to understand each and everything with examples. That is the best thing. So in non-probability sampling, here we select individuals who are easiest to reach. Now this is really important. Who are easiest to reach. Okay. Let's say one of the example will be like surveying people at mall, right? Surveying people at mall, because many people do visit mall, right? And we can go ahead and just ask anyone regarding their specific survey. Okay. So again, in non-probability sampling, there are multiple ways, multiple techniques that is involved. So first of the technique that we are going to write is something called as convenience sampling. Now, what exactly is convenience sampling? Let's go ahead and discuss. Okay. And again, we'll discuss this with example. So here we select individuals who are easiest to reach. Okay. Who are easiest to reach. I know the definition is almost same. Okay. But again, based on different types, there are some minor changes. Okay. And again, the example can be same thing. Okay. The second type that we will be seeing, right? So this is A, this is B, which is called as judgmental or purposive sampling. What is this sampling technique? Let's go ahead and discuss. Here we select individual. Based on the researchers judgment. Okay. About who would be most useful or representative. So here, who would be more useful or representative. So I'm just going to write the definition over here, but again, by hearing the examples, you will get a clear idea. Let's say I want to do a survey by choosing experts in the field to participate. Choosing experts in a specific field or research work to participate, right? Let's say I want to do a survey related to data science. So if I really want to do a survey related to data science, let's say this survey, I want only the experts to probably participate. So this is basically called as judgmental or purposive sampling. Okay. So let's talk about the next type, which is basically called as the third type, which is called as snowball sampling. Snowball sampling. This is also a non-probability sampling. Okay. So here, whatever existing study subjects will be there, existing study subjects, recruit future subjects from among their acquaintances. Okay. Now let's talk about an example over here again. So here, let's say I want to survey members of a rare disease. Okay. Rare disease. And I'll be dependent on the community by asking people, whom do you know who have the similar kind of rare disease, right? So that is basically called as snowball sampling. And finally, the sampling technique that we are going to basically use is something called as quota sampling. Now this sampling is also very much famous in India, which is called as quota sampling. So based on a specific quotas, you try to, and this quotas will basically have the specific characteristics, and you try to do the sampling over here. Here, let's say age, groups, genders, caste, these all things can probably come up. Okay. So these are most of the sampling techniques that we have discussed about. But now the question rises, Krish, what kind of sampling techniques that you have to probably select? It completely depends on the use cases. So that is the reason I've given multiple examples. Selecting the sampling technique depends on use cases. Okay. But you really need to understand the differences between all the sampling techniques, then only you will be able to understand it. Depends on use cases. Okay. So I hope you are able to understand this entire things. At the end of the day, just understand the basic differences. You don't need to by heart it, but based on the examples, you can probably differentiate each type of sampling techniques. So yes, this was it from my side. I will see you all in the next video. Thank you.